Welcome to episode 38 of Duties of the Heart by Rabbi Bahya Ibn Pakuda, and we're in the fourth chapter of the Gate of the Trust in God, and we are about halfway through the fourth chapter. We'll probably have another couple of episodes before we finish this particular chapter 4, and in this episode we're going to be discussing trust in God in regards to livelihood. So Rabbi Bahya begins: the way one should trust in God in regard to one's livelihood is as follows. If it is withheld from him on occasion, he should say in his heart, the one who brought me into this world at a certain time and at a certain moment, neither earlier nor later, he is the one who withholds from me my livelihood until a certain moment and day, knowing what is best for me. So too, when his income is very limited and does not exceed the basic minimum by even the slightest, he should reflect in his heart and say, he provided me at the start of my life with my daily food at my mother's breast, according to my need and enough to sustain me, until replacing it with something better, and the limited supply did not harm me in the least. In the same way, I will suffer no harm on account of the limited minimal income he now gives me to the end of my days. He will be rewarded for this, as the Creator said of our forefathers in the wilderness who were in a similar situation, and he brings a quote from Shemot chapter 16 verse 4, the people shall go out and gather that day's portion each day. And also from Yirmiyahu chapter 2 verse 2, go cry in the ears of Yerushalayim and say, how you followed me in the wilderness in a land not sown. Furthermore, if his livelihood comes to him in one way and not another, in one place and not in another, through one individual and not another, he should say to himself, the one who created me in a certain form and image, with a certain nature and disposition, to the exclusion of the other forms, natures and qualities, as this is best for me, he has chosen that my livelihood come to me in the ways most suitable for me, and not in other ways. The one who brought me into this world in a certain place, and by certain means of two particular individuals from among all the people in the world, he has determined that I earn a living in a certain land, and through a certain individual, whom he has made a means to my livelihood for my benefit. As it says in Scripture, in Psalms 145, God is just in all his ways. Let us now take up the third group, the matters relating to one's wife and children, household members and relatives, friends and enemies, intimates and acquaintances, those above him and those below him amongst the various classes of people. The proper way of relying on God in these matters is as follows. Every person is necessarily in one of these two situations. Either he is a stranger or he lives amongst family and friends. Now Rabbi Bachya is going to discuss having trust in God when alone. And he continues, if he is a stranger, he should, whenever he feels lonely, find companionship in God and, in his condition as a stranger, place his trust in him. He should bear in mind that the soul is also a stranger in this world, and the inhabitants of the earth are like strangers on it, as it says in Vayikra 25 verse 23, for to me you are strangers and temporary residents. He should think of how anyone who has relatives will, in a short while, be left in a solitary stranger. Neither relative nor child will help him, and not one of them will accompany him. He should also consider that he is freed from the heavy burden of supporting relatives and fulfilling obligations towards them, and regards this as one of the blessings of the Creator has bestowed upon him. For if he is busy with secular interests and providing for his material needs, his labours are lighter and without wife or child, and their absence means rest for him and is beneficial to him. And if he is concerned about his latter end, his mind is undoubtedly clearer and freer when he is in a state of solitude. For this reason, the ascetics who would leave their relatives and homes for the mountains, so as to free their minds for God's service. And the prophets at the time of prophecy would leave their homes and seclude themselves to concentrate on their duties to the Creator, as you know from the account of Eliyahu and Elisha, of whom it is written in Kings 19 verse 19, 12 yoke of oxen were before him, and he was with the 12th. As soon as Eliyahu gave him a slight hint, he understood and said, also from Malachim chapter 19 verse 20, let me kiss my father and my mother and I will follow you. Then it says, the next verse, he followed Eliyahu and assisted him. The story is told of one of the ascetics who went to a certain city to teach the service of God to its inhabitants. He found that their clothing and personal finery were all alike in colour. Their graves were near the doors of their homes, and he saw no women amongst them. When he asked them about this, they said to him, our apparel is all of one colour, so that the poor man be indistinguishable from the rich man, so that the wealthy man not become proud and arrogant, and the poor man not be disgraced in his own eyes, and that our condition upon the earth be as our condition beneath it. It is told of one of the kings that he would mingle with his servants, and he was indistinguishable amongst them, because in his dress and ornaments he practiced humility. We place the graves of our departed near our doors, so that we be disciplined by this, become aware of death, and prepare the provisions that will enable us to reach the place of rest. As for your observation that we have separated ourselves from our wives and children, you should know that we have set aside for them a city near here, so that if one of us is in need of something that relates to them, he goes there and, after meeting his need, returns to us. We have done this so because we have observed the mental distraction, heavy loss and great trouble that result from their being close to us, while keeping away from them brings us relief from the above and frees us to choose to occupy ourselves with the concerns of the world to come, and to reject matters of this world. The ascetic approved of what they had said, blessed them, and congratulated them on their conduct. A very interesting model city of asceticism. And now Rabbi Bachya is going to talk about commitments to family and friends and the subject of trust in God. And he continues, if one who trusts in God has a wife and relatives, friends and enemies, he should rely on God to save him from being overburdened by them, and endeavour to meet his duties towards them, to fulfill their wishes and to be wholehearted with them. He should avoid causing them any harm and promote their interests. He should be their steadfast supporter in all their concerns and advise them of what is advantageous to them in religious and secular matters. He should do all this to serve God, as it is written in Vayikra chapter 19:18, love your neighbour like yourself. And also from Vayikra 19:17, do not hate your brother in your heart. Not because he hopes to be repaid by them, not to make them indebted to him, not because he loves to be honoured and praised by them, not to have authority over them, but to fulfill the commandment of the Creator and to keep his covenants and his ordinances in their regard. For if his motive in fulfilling their wishes is one of those ulterior motives mentioned previously, he will not obtain what he wants from them in this world. He will labour in vain, and he will lose his reward in the world to come. If, however, he acts solely out of the service to God, God will help them, the beneficiaries, to pay him in this world, will put his praises into their mouths, and will increase his stature in their eyes, and he will attain great reward in the world to come. As God said to Shlomo in Kings 3 verse 13, I give you also what you did not ask for, both riches and honour. And now Rabbi Bachya is going to discuss the idea when people try to help each other, how this relates to trust in God. So he continues, when relating to those above him and those below him amongst the various classes of people. The right way to rely on God is as follows. When the need arises to ask for something from someone above him or below him, he should rely on God for it and regard the people as the means of securing it, just as one tills the soil and sows it as means to his livelihood. If God wishes to support him from it, the crops grow, thrive, and flourish, and no thanks are due the land for this, only the Creator. If God does not wish to support him from it, the land yields no produce, or it yields produce which suffers damage, and the land is not to blame. So too, when he asks one of them to do something, he should consider the ability of the weak to perform it in equal to that of the strong, and rely on God, may he be exalted, for its achievements. If it is carried out by one of them, he should thank the Creator, who fulfilled his wishes, and also thank the one with whom it was carried out for his goodwill and for being the agent of the Creator's aid. It is well known that the Creator brings about good only through the agency of the righteous, and only rarely brings around loss through them. As our sages of blessed memory said, and he quotes from Baba Basra 119b, merit is brought about through meritorious individuals and liability through unworthy individuals. And as it says in Proverbs 12:21, no evil will befall the righteous. If his request is not carried out for him by any of them, he should not blame them or attribute to them negligence, but he should thank God for having chosen what was his good. He should also thank them in accordance with what he knows of their efforts to fulfill his request, even though it was not carried out as he and they had wished. He should also conduct himself in this way in his relations with intimates and friends, business associates, employees, and partners. Similarly, when asked by someone higher or lower than himself to do something, he should try to do it with all his heart and focus his mind on carrying it out, provided he is able and that the one who asks him is worthy of the efforts. Then he should put his trust in God for his accomplishments. If God brings it about through his agency and uses him as the instrument for benefiting his fellow man, he should offer thanks for this privilege. But if, after going through much trouble and effort, he is prevented from doing so and is unable to fulfill his neighbor's request, he should not blame himself and should inform his friend that he tried his best. And the last section we're going to do in this episode relates to one's enemies and the trust in God. So he continues, in matters relating to his enemies and those who are envious of him and who seek his harm, he should trust in the Creator, may he be exalted, and bear their scorn. He should not pay them back in kind, but with kindness, and any favour that he can do for them he should do, bearing in mind that his well-being and injury are in the hands of the Creator, may he be exalted. If his enemies should cause him injury, he should judge them favourably, and suspect himself and his deeds of having been previously evil in God's sight. He should plead before God and ask him to forgive his sins. Then his enemies will become his friends. As the wise man said, and he's referring to King Shlomo here, when God is pleased with a man's ways, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. So very interesting there. Rabbi Bachya is urging us to have trust in God in every situation. And also, one thing that's interesting, this last section that is related to one's enemies, how to turn the other cheek, so to speak. It may seem unnatural as a human being to act in this way. If your enemy has done you wrong, you feel a sense of righteous indignation in your displeasure, in your anger with your fellow man. But like we are told to be a kind of mirror of God's in his attributes, we should also try and raise ourselves above the human condition, human emotions. When we feel we deserve revenge, we should turn the other cheek and consider it a kind of, that this enemy of yours is an instrument by God to teach you something, or perhaps give you, recompense for something bad you did, and you have to take it on. Just consider this person as just acting on behalf of God, which is a very strange thing for a human being to do. But to be able to do that, it means you raise yourself above your base instincts as a human being to the level of perhaps, a minor angel in some respects. I mean in the respect that you're not acting with your human emotions. You're rising above it. So very interesting, and we'll continue with this chapter in the next episode.